Hey guys, how are you? It's Nat here. I just wanted to touch base with you and talk to you about the difference between love addiction and codependency because somebody asked in the group. And as you know, I always am pleased to take any of your topics that are related to your life and always happy to hear it. Now, I haven't really had a lot of sleep lately. I've had both kids in my bed, and so I look a little bit tired today, but I'm here to show up for you guys. So I wanted to, hi Belinda, I wanted to explain the difference between codependency and love addiction. Now, there's an interesting Pia Melody quote, if you haven't read her book, Facing Love Addiction, and she says in it that all love addicts are codependent, but not all codependent people are love addicts. And the major difference, just to begin with off the bat, is that love addicts are more about obsessive thinking and obsessive patterns, and codependents are more about acting out of a fear-based place, in the not a good enoughness place. They also have a very immature way of looking at life, and most of their reactions are trauma-based. So I'm just going to go through some of the things that love addiction and codependency have in common, and then we can touch base on other things. And if you are watching and you have a question right off the bat, you can ask it if you want. So basically, both love addiction and codependency have to do with losing yourself in relationships. So you feel like you don't really have autonomy in relationships, and you feel emotionally dependent on the other person. It also means that you're acting out, both in love addiction and codependency, you're acting out unresolved trauma on the other person or onto yourself. It means that you have to explain or justify like everything that you do to the other person and feel guilty for expressing any authenticity. And you're always looking out for the other person much more than yourself. That's basically the basis of codependency and love addiction. It's really interesting because when I read some research on both elements, it's really about trauma at the end of it, right? So if you are codependent or you have an issue with the way you attach to other love partners, it's probably an issue with your childhood. So if you have an addictive way of attaching or an anxious form of attaching yourself to other people, then you might want to have a look at how you attached yourself as a kid to either parent, or what you seeked in terms of your own self-esteem when you were a kid. So yeah, I mean, both love addiction and codependency is quite of a chaotic representation of how to relate with another person. Another thing that I wanted to say is, like, if you are in a relationship and you're codependent or a love addict, it always feels like you're walking on eggshells with the person. It always feels like you have a hard time expressing yourself in the moment. You constantly feel guilty or remorse for not being up to their expectation. And you have to bury your emotions because you feel like they're going to basically, like, I don't know, guilt you, shame you, or just be super angry at you. And so there always feels in love addiction and codependent relationships that there is a way that you feel like, I'm just not good enough. Like, this person is so much better than me. And sometimes you don't even think that, but that's how you act in the relationship, is you feel like the other person's better than you, and you put their needs first. So yeah, it's very chaotic, and most of the time, love addicts attach themselves to love avoidance. Love avoidance are people that actually have a really hard time expressing themselves vulnerably in relationships. They sometimes have like a narcissistic approach towards relationships. And love addicts actually attract other addicts. So whether or not they are love addicted or not, probably they're more avoidant in love, but they are probably addicted to other substances or power or greed. So it's a really interesting thing that we attach ourselves to those people. So basically the difference between codependency and love addiction is this. Codependents have an emotional immaturity. They act out of trauma. There's something wrong with me all the time. I always feel like I need to make sure that you're feeling better, that you are being seen in the right light. Also, you have a very disproportionate way of looking at the person. So you always feel more positive about the person than they actually are. They're probably a lot shittier than you think. And you want to attach yourself, if you're codependent, to something else so you feel better. You might not acknowledge that, and you might not feel that that's what you're doing, but that's what you're doing. Now, love addicts, they put so much value on the other person. Like, it's almost like they can't breathe with the other person. Like, they're going to die without the other person. They have obsessive thoughts about the other person. They have a lot of magical thinking around the other person. They put the other person on a pedestal. And they have unrealistic expectations of the relationship. They have a weird passive regard for the other person, and they neglect themselves absolutely and completely. So if you have an issue with love addiction or codependency, the number one thing is to work on your trauma. The number one thing is to work on self-care and reestablishing what you mean to yourself and your repurposing in your world. So it has to do with a lot of trauma release and trying to find healthier attachment styles when you come out of the trauma. So if you have more interest in dealing with this, you can basically sign up to my group program in November, Heal Your Toxic Relationship with Yourself, because we talk about all of that stuff. So even if you're not a codependent or a love addict, it is such a great program to kind of reevaluate where you are and what you're doing and how you can really, really be in a sense of peace and lightness with yourself. So thank you for watching. Thank you, Belinda, for watching right now. And I hope you're well, and I hope you guys are having a lovely day. Please post topics. I love topics because look what I do. I start like being such a geek about things. Help me help you. So yeah. So any topics, please attach it below. Actually, Belinda, why don't you give us a topic right now? That'd be really, really sweet. I would really appreciate that. I hope everyone's well. Goodbye.